you ready to begin?
Sure.
Okay, Chan White, that's your birth name, right?
Close, but no guitars. It's Heinwitz.
Oh, Hamwitz?
No, Heinwitz.
Heimwitz, okay.
You said it. Well, the name came out through a Gentile mouth, so it didn't quite have the flavour. Came out bland.
Well, it's not a Gentile mouth.
Oh, maybe a discussion we can have later.
Okay.
But let's not start something we're not going to finish.
Right.
How did your parents treat you as a child?
I think it was probably a muchness with the way other children were treated. I was bashed on occasion, hit with a stick. What sort of occasion would merit that? I honestly have no idea. When I say bash, what do I mean by bash? Just whacked. Like my mother used to whack me in the face because she said she couldn't hurt me anywhere else. I once said in an interview, God preserve me from falling in love. Why is that? Did I say?
It's a shame you couldn't do an up tune for us, but I liked that one.
Later in the show.
Yeah, maybe later. Gee, you're really shot after a number, let alone a whole evening, I would think.
Yeah.
Could we start this again?
Sure.
But with a different question.
Okay. What do you use to paint your face? And do you ever break out from that? Do you like being covered up by makeup? And does it make you feel less vulnerable or, less like yourself?
I don't feel covered up more or less than any girl feels covered up when she wears makeup. The makeup's simply an extension of the personality, and it's actually oil-based. It's Stein's makeup. It's one of the brand names. You can use lots of things.
What do you do to take the makeup off? What do you use?
Use Pond's, the same stuff women do, or you could use a Stein's concoction, which is, sort of similar, but more industrial. Industrious means sort of ambitious, industrial in strength.
Oh, sorry. You tell me you kind of collapse after a show.
Oh, well, I'm used to it because I'm so turned on by doing one that it's hard to do. It's hard to stop after one, to tell you the truth, because it just makes you want to do more.
Your engine is revved up.
Yeah, sort of.
You see, I know all the hip expressions. Your engine is revved up.
Oh, well, you're a real swinger. I can tell by your pants, man.
Wait a minute. What's wrong with these pants?
Clothes that you've worn on stage include fishnet stockings, spiked platform heels.
That's actually untrue.
No?
No fishnet stockings. Never. Not in this band.
Oh, I'm sure I saw you with fishnets.
We catch fish with fishnets.
I was sure I saw you in them, but that's all right. I trust you. I trust you on that.
Don't ever do that.
Last year I said that falling in love turns you into an immediate bore. And it's dreadful, being, and there you are, this like needy creature, this waiter by the telephone, and being a woman, it's still the case that you can't make things happen very easily. I mean, you can make them happen maybe for a while, but you can't manage the affair. Why can't you manage the affair? Well, I was married briefly.
I had a lot of trouble last week. It wasn't that tune. We opened with another tune and I tore a muscle. Isn't that right?
Oh, I heard about this. You tore a muscle somewhere near Maryland.
No, it was closer to home than that.
But
I played 40 minutes, man. I did 40 minutes.
Yeah, but how do you tear a muscle singing? I mean, was it from exhaustion or?
I went like that.
You actually literally tore a muscle. Every time. Like that. Yeah.
Every time it hurt.
Could you feel it go?
Yeah.
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 What do they do? Do they set a muscle, or do they tape you up or something?
They told me to keep still.
No, let's get to the studded codpiece.
Oh, yes?
Do you have a sense of humor about that?
No.
Does that seem funny to you?
No, it holds in my manhood.
That's right.
Otherwise, it'd be too much for you to take. You'd have to put the book down and confront life. You see, if you want to welcome me with open arms, I'm afraid you're also going to have to welcome me with open legs.
That's a really obnoxious thing to say.
No, it's not. It's being... Why should I say something behind your back that I can't tell you to your face?
Wait, has it come to this? Is this the only way that you can talk to a woman to do that shtick?
Well, of course. Don't I sound happy?
Not really, to be honest with you.
How was that marriage? Brief, really. Brief and agonizing. Yeah, I shouldn't have done it. It was a mistake. Because during that marriage, I slept with other people, as did my husband. Is that right? No, my husband didn't. No, but I was unfaithful to him. Yes. Why was that?
I was going to suggest we get out of this musty place so you can see the paint peeling off the walls and get out into the world and see what everyone else is doing.
Having sex with you.
You'd have to get in line.
You wrote that tune that you were singing, like we just agreed to talk about.
No, I didn't write that last tune.
Oh, but you wrote the other tune, right?
Yeah, I wrote the first tune. Yes, I did. It's about men.
Oh, it's about men. It's a little hard to tell what it was about because I was over there where the sound's a little distorted.
Oh well, in my story, that's what it is anyway.
Yeah.
I thought I was in serious trouble, so I went to all the old boyfriends and I said, "Look what I've done," and then they said, "There, never mind." So that'll pick up line.
Well, that's the thing. We might as well get to this since you keep bringing it up. Yeah, you've had 4,000.
I didn't actually bring it up. You did.
You're right. In your book, you've had 4,600 sexual liaisons.
You're supposed to say.
So far.
Right.
So you say you've had sex with about 4,600 people, women.
Yeah.
Do you actually count? I mean, do you have like a book, in which you keep hash marks or?
What I figured out a long time ago was every day should be enjoyable. Life is the pursuit of pleasure, and I've done very well in pursuing it. Women and their sisters and their mums seem to want to express their adoration and or fan worship, or perhaps they want to see if my oral appendage actually does have a spin dry cycle, or whether or not it has the ability to whip up good froth. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you it does. So for whatever reason, they deem me worthy of their companionship. I was more than glad to oblige. So about 30 years ago, I started taking photos, Polaroids. I still have them to this day. And so when the book was being published, the publishers, Crown Publishers, they said, well, I can't just say, I did this and I did that. You have to give specifics. So I sat down and I started counting 1, 2, so on. And I arrived at about 4,600 and change.
Do you ever see those mule carts?
Yeah.
There's a dumb mule on there, right? And a long stick with a string and a carrot, and it hangs over the mule's nose, and it runs after it all day long.
Well, who's the man in this parable? The mule or the person holding the carrot?
No, the woman is the mule chasing something that somebody holds her way.
Constantly chasing her man.
Yeah.
Who always eludes her.
Oh well, they always hold something more than what they're prepared to give.
I have to defend my entire sex, ladies and gentlemen. The burden of the defense.
Oh, go right ahead.
Well, one-arm wrestling, 2 out of 3.
Oh, I should hope so.
And I mean, 3 weeks of marriage, it's true to say I was unfaithful 7 times, but my husband didn't. I mean, I didn't really plan it that way or anything. It was just that they were anxious to show me that I'm.
Are you interested in music, or is the goal of being in a rock band to have sex a lot?
Don't you love this interview? Tell me the truth.
Well, I think it's kind of a drag because you're making speeches.
That's right.
And you're being intentionally obnoxious.
No, I'm not.
Do you actually sit down when you got up in the morning and write out a song, or do you look? When you say you write it, you compose it. You write it on a paper.
Oh, you just make it up. I don't write songs. I make them up.
They don't exist on paper. Your songs, do they?
Sometimes I just write down the words so I don't forget them. But I mean, I don't write songs. It's a whole different concept. I just make them up.
Let's talk about your background. You were born in Israel several years after the war ended. Your mother during the war was in a Nazi concentration camp.
Did you ever get back to Port Arthur, Texas?
No, but I'm going back in next August, man. And guess what I'm doing?
I don't know.
I'm going to my 10th annual high school reunion.
Take movies and bring them back to show us, will you?
So here's a woman who's been through the German Nazi concentration camps of World War II and still thought there was goodness in humanity and always called the glass half full instead of half empty. And when asked, well, what about your son? He's in this weird rock band and he dresses weird and, he apparently has a lot of liaisons with girls and stuff. What do you think about that? She says, well, as long as he doesn't use drugs and alcohol and doesn't hurt anybody, then I don't care about the rest. You know what? She's right.
I don't know what they were anxious to show me. I was obviously anxious to see it, whatever it was. No, it wasn't really. I was really quite distraught about the whole thing.
Hey, would you like to go?
Well, I don't remember. I don't have any friends in your high school class.
Oh, I don't either. Believe me.
You don't either.
It's hard going, man.
Yeah, and do you think you'll have a lot to say to your old high school classmates?
No, I don't have a lot, man.
You were not surrounded by friends in high school?
They laughed me out of class, out of town, and out of state, man.
You said you don't have sympathy for that guy on the roof who keeps saying, I'm going to jump.
None.
But my impression is you don't have much sympathy for anyone. You're so into yourself. You're just so deep into yourself.
Well, I think everybody should be. I think life is too short to have anything but delusional notions of yourself, which is you should really think that you're better looking than you are. And you should really like yourself more than you deserve to. And so I'm aware, as a sane person, I'm not the best looking guy. And I'm aware of it. But when I go into a party, I guarantee I will walk out with your girlfriend.
Well, we'll leave it at that.
Sure.
Thanks so much.
There's something going on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And what is your occupation?
Well, I'm a producer of motion picture cartoons.
How long have you been in that business?
Since 1920.
And you have been in Hollywood during this time?
I have been in Hollywood since 1923.
At the present time, you own and operate a studio at Burbank, California?
Yes, I'm one of the part owners. I'm one of the owners.
How many people are employed there approximately?
At the present time, around 600.
Will you tell us a little bit about the nature of this particular studio, the type of pictures that you make, and approximately how many per year?
Yes, well, mainly cartoon films. We make about 20 short subjects and about 2 features per year.
How many did you say?
20 short subject cartoons and about 2 features per year.
And some of the characters in the films consist of...
You mean such as Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and Snow White and stuff?
Sorry, will you just talk a bit louder, please?
Sorry, yes.
What sort of characters?
Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and things of that sort.
And where are these films distributed? Excuse me, where are these films distributed?
All over the world.
In all countries of the world?
Except Russian countries.
Why are they distributed in Russia?
Well, we can't do business with them.
What do you mean by that?
Well, we've sold some pictures to them a good many years ago. They bought the Three Little Pigs and they used it through Russia.
So, will you talk a bit louder, please?
Sorry, yes, they bought the Three Little Pigs and they used it through Russia, and they looked at a lot of our pictures and they didn't want them, or it didn't suit their purposes. They got whatever. Yeah.
Have you made have you ever made any pictures in your studio that contained propaganda and were propaganda films?
Well, during the war we did. We made quite a few working with different agencies. We did one for the Treasury on taxes, and I did 4 anti-Hitler films.
From those pictures that you made, have you any opinion as to whether or not the films can be used effectively to disseminate propaganda?
Yes, I think they proved that.
And aside from those pictures that you made during the war, have you made any other pictures, or do you permit pictures to be made at your studio containing propaganda?
No, we never have. During the war it was a different thing. We work hard to make sure nothing of that sort creeps in.
Do you have any people in your studio at the present time that you believe are communists?
Oh, no, not at all. Everyone at my studio is 100% American.
Have you had at any time, in your opinion, in the past, have you had any time in the past had any communists employed at your studio?
Yes, in the past I had some people that I definitely feel were communists.
As a matter of fact, you experienced a strike at your studio, did you not?
Yes.
And is it your opinion that the strike was instituted by members of the Communist Party to serve their purposes?
Well, it proved itself so with time, and I definitely feel it was a communist group trying to take over my artists, my boys, and...
Sorry, did you say take them over?
Yes, they did take them over.
Will you explain that, please?
Right. Yes, it came to my attention when a delegation of my boys, my artists, came to me and told me that a Mr. Herbert Sorel,
Is that Herbert K. Sorel?
Herbert K. Sorel, yes, was trying to take them over. And I believed at the time that Mr. Sorel was a communist because of all the things that I had heard and having seen his name appearing on a number of commie front things. When he first pulled the strike, all the people there smeared me and put me on the unfair list. They were all the commie front organizations. I can't remember them all. They all changed so often. But one that's clear in my mind is the League of People's...
Will you talk just a bit louder, please?
Oh, the League of Women Shoppers, yes. And also the People's World and the Daily Worker. They smeared me. Commie groups began smear campaigns against me and my pictures.
what is your personal opinion on the Communist Party?
I believe it's an un-American thing, and I feel that they ought to be smoked out and smoke out, yeah, and shown for what they are, so that all the good free causes in this country can go on without the taint of communism. That is my sincere feeling on the matter.
Thank you very much. I want to congratulate you on the form of entertainment which you've given the American people and given the world, and congratulate you for taking time out to come here and testify before this committee. You've been very helpful.
Thank you.
Now,
could you tell us your thoughts on losing another British colony?
Sad.
Particularly sad. Well, we did rule over the place for a long time.
In 1842, we acquired the small island of Hong Kong, freehold, but then we went back and said that's not enough.
We wanted to keep a big trading base. They wouldn't let us have any more land freehold, and they gave us
a large piece of land on lease. But the fact of the matter is you fought 2 wars. You came in and you just took Hong Kong without the consent of China.
We did indeed take 2 wars, yes. We were, in fact, trading. There was, I'm afraid, some trade in drugs.
Yes, drugs.
But we have learned a great deal in the 100 to 150 years, and I could only wish that mainland China had learned so much. If so, we would have never had a Tiananmen Square.
We would have never had a cultural revolution.
In your judgment, why does China have such difficulties over the concept of human rights?
Because people don't matter to the communist system. Do you think the system of government here in China...
Communism will eventually collapse. Indeed, it is starting. Deng Xiaoping realizes it can't go on. Law is coming too to China. Initiative is coming to China. Enterprise is coming to China. It won't stop.
During the 1982 talks, referring to you, Mr. Deng said...
That woman should be bombarded out of her obstinance.
Well, that is what he'd want to say, wouldn't he?
If you had argued with him, you were obstinate. He was obstinate, he argued with me. Yes, I was obstinate, but he knew that we produced prosperity, and he didn't. Why? Of course I am obstinate in defending our liberties and our law. It is why I carry a big handbag.
You don't trust him, do you?
I don't trust a communist. Do you? I can't answer that. I'm the reporter asking questions.
It is interesting that you asked that.
Following the Falklands War, did your hubris from having won that war make you think that you could persuade the Chinese that Britain should continue with Hong Kong? No, there was no hubris in the Falklands. Only a fantastic relief that our people were once again free and were not going to have an aggressor take over the British land and British people.
And we don't like aggression anywhere in the world. Turning now to the Gulf War, can you recall the moment when you heard that Saddam Hussein had invaded Kuwait?
Yes, very clearly, because I'd gone to speak at a conference at Aspen.
A beautiful town.
A beautiful town.
A beautiful town.
It was not long after I had arrived there that I heard that Saddam Hussein has gone into Kuwait, over the border, into Kuwait. And I immediately said to my aide, will you please find out where our naval ships are?
And also where our aircraft are.
And whether we can get any aircraft to go to the Gulf.
And whether we can divert the naval ships.
And you've got to take some action quickly.
And then the following morning I woke up early and started to sort out in my mind the really big issues.
I went out for a walk, always lovely in the mountains, and got things worked out in my mind.
But it was perfectly clear. Aggression must be stopped, and if an aggressor gets away with it, Others will want to get away with it too. So he must be stopped. What was your first instinct about how he should be stopped?
Did you first think that it would be purely an American action, or should the British be involved? When I went back to meet President Bush, George just said to me, "Now, Margaret, what do you think?" Straight away, and so I was able to say exactly what I thought.
And then while we were talking, the telephone rang. I think it was from the ruler of the Yemen, and I said to him, "President, you do know that the Yemenite...
Yemenis.
What?
Yemeninis?
Yemeninis.
Yemeninis. They, being on the Security Council, did not vote last night against Saddam Hussein. So we were already alert that there were some people who were in fact
not going to take the view of which the President and I took, but were going to argue.
As indeed the next telephone calls that came in from, I think, King Hussein from Egypt.
From Jordan.
From Egypt, from Jordan, from all over the Middle East.
We really weren't enamored in any way with the possibility of an Arab solution because we didn't really think it existed. Could you describe your meeting with King Hussein?
From Jordan, because some accounts have it that you pinned him to the wall at 10 Downing Street.
Well, not quite, but I was very firm.
I was not discourteous.
I was firm.
I was firm.
Very firm indeed.
Very firm indeed.
The oil.
The oil could come out straight along the road through Iraq, straight along out from Jordan. I knew full well what was happening.
They formed a foursome: Jordan, Iraq, Egypt, and the Yemen, and I found it very difficult. Of course, I was very tough.
I had to be. Did you ever have a disagreement with George Bush?
Behind the scenes? No, I don't think so, though there were times when he wanted me to do something and I said, certainly not.
What was it about the relationship that created that atmosphere?
Well, the fact that I knew and he knew that we were working for the same purposes and for the same ends and often by the same methods.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much.
Is it finished?
I've enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
I read somewhere that you never wanted to be a child, that you wanted to escape childhood.
That's true.
You acted in and directed some school plays. Did you have a particular love of makeup even then? Because Kane is a masterpiece of makeup.
Well, it had to be. Look at all these ages I had to become. I came to work many days at 2:30 in the morning to be made up to start work at 9. Because I was so young, it's very hard to be 70 years old and make it believable. But the thing that's never been printed is the truth. And that is they had to make me up for the scenes where I played a young man. I was as heavily made up in the scenes where I played a young man as I was when I played an old man. Oh, I could hardly move for the corsets and the fish skin and everything. I read once, Norman Mailer wrote something or other, that when I was young, I was the most beautiful man anybody had ever seen. But it was all makeup, made up for Kane, and only for 5 days.
You mean you never looked like that?
Never. I wish I had. On the other hand, Everett Sloane, who aged with me in the film, never wore any makeup at all. We just shaved his head and put some white around it. And he couldn't have been more than 21. It had a profound effect on him because he thought, how can I represent a 75-year-old man without makeup? Is it because my nose is too big? And he began having operations on it. He must have had 20 operations before he killed himself. He must have thought, if I could just get my nose right, then I'll be a leading man.
Well, that's incredible.
Terrible story, yes.
He was brilliant. That scene with the reporter.
It's my favorite scene.
The story about the girl. One day, back in 1896, I was crossing over to Jersey on the ferry.
Yes. It's the best thing in the movie. You'll remember Everett Sloane was asked about Kane's dying word, rosebud. What's rosebud? Maybe some girl? There were a lot of them back in the early days, and
A fellow will remember things you wouldn't think he'd remember. One day, back in 1896, I was crossing over to Jersey on a ferry, and as he pulled out, there was another ferry pulling in, and on it, there was a girl waiting to get off. A white dress she had on, and she was carrying a white parasol, and I only saw her for 1 second, and she didn't see me at all, but I'll bet a month hasn't gone by since that I haven't thought of that girl.
yeah. See what I mean?
Great scene.
If I were in hell and they gave me a day off and said, what part of any movie you ever made do you want to see? I'd see that scene. All the rest could have been better, but that was just right.
And another question about Kane. It seemed to me that your memory of your mother is reflected in the scenes with Kane's mother.
Well, not at all. She was so different,
I don't mean the character, but the affection of Kane.
Really, no comparison. My mother was very beautiful, very gorgeous, and very tough. She was rather tough with me.
Well, the mother in Kane was not a sentimental mother.
It isn't that. There just isn't any connection.
It's not so much the mother herself, but the emotion of remembering a mother, as in the scene where you meet Susan. Excuse me, Mr. Kane. I know this takes a lot of nerve, but who are you? I mean, I'm pretty ignorant. I guess you caught on to that. You really don't know who I am? No. That is, I bet it turns out I've heard your name a million times, only you know how it is. I don't know many people, and I know too many people. Obviously, we're both lonely. Would you like to know where I was going tonight? I was on my way to the Western Manhattan warehouses in search of my youth. You see, my mother died, too, a long time ago. The things were put into storage out west because I had no place to put them in then. I still haven't. How about you? Oh, me?
How old did you say you were?
I didn't say.
I didn't think you did. If you had, I wouldn't have asked you again because I'd have remembered. How old?
Pretty old. I'll be 22 in August.
That's a ripe old age. What do you do?
I work at Seligman's.
Is that what you want to do?
I want to be a singer. I mean, I didn't. Mother did for me.
What happened to the singing? You're not in a show, are you?
Oh, no, nothing like that. Mother always thought. She used to talk about grand opera for me. Imagine, an American girl for one thing, and then my voice isn't really that kind anyway. It's just that mothers, you know what mothers are like.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, I do sing a little.
Would you sing for me?
Oh, you wouldn't want to hear me sing?
Yes, I would. That's why I asked.
Well,
Please sing. Look at you.
Don't be stupid.
You poor, fragile, withering thing. Look at it. Barely a beat of life left in her. Go on, sing, ladies and gentlemen.
Please don't hold me, but if you hold me, don't take your arms away. Comes a change in weather, comes a change of heart, and who knows when the rain will start. So I beg you, please don't love me, but if you love me, then don't take your lips or your arms or your love away.
That's from the lady from Shanghai.
Rita Hayworth sings it near the end of the film. Would you agree that the picture was kind of a sad farewell to Rita Hayworth? It's been read that way.
We've been separated for a couple of years. She wanted to do the picture, and that brought us back together for a while. When the producer, Harry Cohn, first saw the movie, he offered anyone in the room $1,000 if they could explain the plot to him. No one took him up on it.
Were you, to some extent, though, setting out to make a critique of your relationship with Rita Hayworth? Because you had the part you played, a man stupid enough to get himself into a bad situation with a woman. And then you had a sort of sex goddess, playing a parody almost of a sex siren. You built her up with this soft focus.
Yes, all of that. And put her in the gutter at the end.
There's another line from the lady from Shanghai. When I start out to make a fool of myself, there's little enough that can stop me. Do you feel that's been true in your life? Have there been times when you feel like you've made a fool of yourself?
That's one of those searching, penetrating questions I thought we'd avoid.
You don't want to talk about it?
When I first met Rita, I didn't realize how ill she was, and didn't know the reason for her being so ill. You know, she never wanted to be a movie star. She'd been propelled into a position that gave her no joy. She never got a moment's pleasure out of it. It gave her nothing. Nothing. And she didn't like being Rita Hayworth. She didn't believe in it. But her father made her do it. He was a terrible man, and she hated him. She couldn't deal with him at all after all that he'd done to her. You know, they danced together, father and daughter, in the casinos of Mexico and California. And when they were dancing, she had to pretend to be his wife and not his daughter. And they'd travel around by themselves with no one to protect her from him. Because he was the perfect patriarch, whose needs and demands came first, and so I bet you I've been to the place where you were born.
I'll bet you haven't. Chifu. It's on the China coast. It's the second wickedest city.
What's the first?
Macau.
I worked there.
You worked in Macau? How about Shanghai?
I worked there too.
As a gambler?
Well,
hope you were luckier than I was tonight.
You need more than luck in Shanghai.
I've looked at pills many times.
Pills?
The ones my husband takes to kill the pain, and wondered if enough of them would kill my pain.
The pain of just being alive.
Think the world's coming to an end?
Well, there was a start to the world, so I guess there'll be a stop.
It's coming, you know.
Oh, yeah.
It's gotta come. First the big cities, then maybe even this. It's just gotta come.
I prefer to be somewhere else when it does.
I will be. Love me?
Love. Do you really believe in love at all? I was taught to think about love in Chinese the way a Frenchman thinks about laughter in French. The Chinese say it's difficult for love to last long, therefore one who loves passionately is cured of love in the end.
It's a hard way of thinking.
I could have patched it up in a day, but I had reached the end of my capacity to feel such total failure with her. I'd done everything I could think of, and I didn't seem to bring her anything but agony. I really thought that someone else could make her happy, because I could see there was no way I could. I was going to come home every night to a woman in tears. I felt so guilty. And I adored her. Oh, it was awful. We're such a cruel race of people. Rita once told me, you know, the only happiness I've ever had in my life has been with you. If that was happiness, imagine what the rest of her life had been.
We could have gone off together into the sunrise.
You and me, or you and...
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Are you following me here?
I'm not sure.
Is it true that you dress for men?
Don't most women dress for men? Well, isn't it true that men and women have mutual appreciation of each other?
Why do you wear such low-cut gowns?
I haven't really noticed.
In your last film, were you clad only in a sheet when you were lying in bed, or were you wearing other clothes underneath?
I always wear clothes appropriate to the occasion.
How many different boyfriends do you have in a week?
I think you've been reading too many gossip columns.
Were you popular at school?
I won no popularity awards, but I did have a number of good friends.
Are you happy with the type of publicity you get, or would you rather be known for something else besides your figure?
I want to be known as a good actress.
Who is your first love?
No one you would know.
Are you sultry and sexy by nature, or do you enjoy being this type?
What is a type? I am myself.
Have you a temper, and what makes you lose it?
I have a little temper, and I really lose it when people write untruths about me.
What kind of life did you live before you became a star?
There were some difficult days and some pleasant ones. I went to school, held down a number of jobs, looked for openings in pictures and all the time. I had many disappointments which were crushing, and then I finally reached some small measure of success.
How do you feel about being the sexiest girl in Hollywood?
What do you do to keep your body so beautiful?
Is it beautiful? Just yesterday I stood naked in front of my mirrors for a good while. I'd put on makeup and combed my hair. What did I see? My breasts are starting to sag a little. My waist isn't so bad. My bottom is what it should be. Best of all, with legs, knees, ankles, still in shape. And my feet aren't too big.
Do you think it is rude, or do you like it when men whistle at you?
Any girl who resents whistles should live on a desert island. Sometimes wearing a scarf and a polo coat and no makeup and with a certain attitude of walking, I go shopping or just looking at people living. But then, there'll be a few teenagers who are kind of sharp and they'll say, hey, just a minute, do you know who I think that is? And they'll start tailing me. And I don't mind. I realize some people want to see if you're real. The teenagers, the little kids, their faces light up. You change their whole day. The working men will go by and they'll whistle. At first they whistle because they think, oh, it's a girl, she's got blonde hair and she's not out of shape. And then they say, gosh, it's her. For me, it's an honor and I love them for it. But also when you're famous, you kind of run into human nature in a raw kind of way. It stirs up envy, fame does. People you run into feel that, well, who is she? Who does she think she is? They feel fame gives them some kind of privilege to walk up to you and say anything to you, of any kind of nature, and it won't hurt your feelings, just like it's happening to your clothing. One time, here I am looking for a home to buy, and I stopped this place. A man came out and he was pleasant and cheerful, and he said, oh, just a moment, I want my wife to meet you. Well, she came out and said, will you please get off the premises? I don't understand why people aren't a little more generous with each other. I don't like to say this, but I'm afraid there's a lot of envy in this business. The only thing I can do is stop and think, well, I'm all right, but I'm not so sure about them. For instance, you've read there was some actor that once said that kissing me was like kissing Hitler. Well, I think that's his problem. If I have to do intimate love scenes with somebody who really has these kinds of feelings towards me, then my fantasy can come into play. Like, in other words, out with him, in with my fantasy. He was never there. This industry should behave like a mother whose child's just run out in front of a car, but instead of clasping the child to them, they start punishing the child. Like, you don't dare get a cold. How dare you get a cold? I mean, the executives can get colds and stay home forever and phone it in, but how dare you, the actor, get a cold? I sometimes wish, aren't you? I wish they had to act a comedy with a temperature and a virus infection. An actor is supposed to be a sensitive instrument. Isaac Stern takes good care of his violin. What if everyone jumped on his violin? Like any creative human being, I would like a bit more control, so that it'll be a little bit easier for me when the director says 1 tear right now, that 1 tear would come. But once out came 2 tears because I thought, how dare he? Once I was supposed to be finished, that was the end of me. When Mr. Miller was on trial for contempt of Congress, a certain corporation executive said either he named names and I got him to name names, or I was finished. I said, I'm proud of my husband's position and I stand by him all the way. Finished, they said. You'll never be heard of. It might be kind of a relief to be finished. It's sort of like, I don't know, when you're running in a race and then you think you're at the finish line and you sort of see that you've made it, but you never have. You have to start all over again. What happened?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, what occurred?
No, I don't know. Nothing really occurred. She was dead, and they wouldn't let us take her.
Did you see her body?
Yeah.
Where was it at the time?
She was on the bed, hanging off the bed or something.
Do you recall whether she was on her back or her stomach?
Side?
She was on her side?
Yeah, I think so. I believe she was on her side. Let's see. Yes, it seems she was on her side.
Did either one of you touch her body?
I didn't.
Do you know if your partner did?
Seems to me he did. He checked her to just see if she was dead or whatnot. I think she was pretty cold at the time. Well, I mean, she was blue. You know, the boat like she had settled. She'd been laying there for a while. Do you know what I mean?
Was she blue in any particular portion of her body?
I don't really remember if it was her neck or her side. Look, let's just put it this way: I could look across the room and tell that she was dead.
How are you now?
Very well.
How does one become 100 years old?
I lived always very healthy. I didn't smoke and did not drink much and always enjoyed my work.
What do you wish for on your 100th birthday?
I wish to have no physical complaints.
Do you still have goals in life?
Yes, of course. I wish to continue to work as actively as possible.
Do you have a fear of death?
No.
After 48 years working in cinema comes your new film, Impressions Underwater. What fascinates you about the underwater world?
My new film shows the beauty of the underwater world. I hope it will touch the viewer's conscience as it shows just what will be lost from the world when we do nothing to stop the destruction of our oceans.
Which film of yours would you most gladly turn to today?
My Life with the Nuba. For me, the Nuba of Africa are like a symbol of man living in harmony with nature. In 1963, when Martin Luther King said his I Have a Dream speech, I was living with the Nuba in a small mountain village. But, you know, King's words never reached Africa.
Which film of yours makes you most proud?
Olympia, the film I made about the Berlin Olympics in 1936.
She looks towards the interviewer and shakes her head.
Hitler was not interested in the games in my film and came only when he knew he had to, but Goebbels was always meddling. He told me to take Jesse Owens and the other Black American runner, Archie Williams, out of the film. But of course I didn't.
When did you first meet Hitler?
She
quickly opens her eyes wide as though trying to stay awake or perhaps to see more clearly.
I first saw Adolf Hitler in May 1932 at the Berliner Sportspalast. I saw what power he had with his listeners, like a hypnotist. Hitler cast a spell with the audience, and so they do exactly what he wanted. It was scary, but sparks flew for me too.
She leans her head forward towards the interviewer. She picks up a pen and begins to beat it against her left index finger.
So I sent him a letter asking for interview. I want to make a picture of what is power, what is theatre, and what is reality. I never think I would be honoured by an answer, but it came back very fast. My letter came to Hitler after he saw me dance by the sea in the Hilligberg.
The Holy Mountain.
Yeah, the Holy Mountain. He says it was one of the most beautiful performances he has ever seen. And also, I think that my last film, Das Blue Licht.
The Blue Light.
He wants me to make a film for him. I say, no, my Führer, I cannot do it. I can only do what comes from inside me, what I really want. I don't do films like this. He was disappointed and said that when I was a little older and more mature, I would understand better what he had in mind.
You did go on to become famous, one might say, at the focal point of many things that were going on in Germany at the time. And at the end of that period, there was a long silence. This silence needs explanation. Why? She holds her clenched fist to her mouth and looks towards the interviewer for only a second or two.
You mean the time after the war?
She looks again towards the interviewer for a brief moment and then turns her head away and to the right, raising her left hand so that her head can rest on it.
We have lost the war.
She looks up to the ceiling and then again, for the briefest moment, looks towards the interviewer.
We have lost the war.
Do you feel that Hitler had a strong personal magnetism?
Yeah, of course. But thousands, hundreds of thousands feel this. Now it is perhaps dangerous to say, but it was...
Not at all. I think it was perfectly reasonable.
Yes, but...
Reasonable to say it.
It was. Yes, it was. It was, yes.
She grips both hands firmly together and holds them.
I was living in Germany. In this time... We are living in this time, and if you remember, 90% of the people are enthusiastic. Before Hitler came, 7 million people without work. So we are not thinking about what can happen later.
She looks towards the interviewer, searching. Her left index finger rests on her temple, her other fingers curled and touching her cheek.
Like at Nuremberg. In my film, if you look, you'll see all the people, they were very enthusiastic. It was like Ian Wog.
A wave.
The people who were there, they were thinking We have work. We have peace.
She smiles and then stops herself. She takes a deep breath and looks back towards the interviewer. You had many enemies in Hitler's Germany throughout the war. Why do you think there was this animosity towards you?
I was not a member of the party. And they asked, why is this girl able to do what she does to make these films? I had my trouble with these men. I heard they even tried to kill me. Even Hitler could not help me during the war. And my own brother, yes, he was a simple soldier and people denounced him because of a very simple thing. He was bought something, meat or so, what was not allowed, and so he was sent to the Eastern Front with a punishment company. My brother, I love him so much, and I want to be able to help him because he was in a very dangerous situation, but it was not possible to ask Hitler to help me. My brother killed. He's dead. Never have I asked Hitler for anything. Please, better you finish, because I am too excited.
If you had to live your life again, how would you live it?
My life has been very hard, but also very rich. Yes, I think I would like to live it again.
She smiles and shakes her head. What do you think are your mistakes?
My mistakes?
Yes. Would you say that your one mistake was your close association with Hitler, looking back now?
No, I don't think so.
She locks fingers together and turns her hands over and over. She looks down.
Because I don't think that I was more clever than the thousands of people, wise people, who have had a friendship with Hitler. I don't think that we were able to see into the future.
She looks up towards the ceiling and opens her hands with palms facing towards the interviewer.
It would be easy for me to say yes, that was a mistake. But that's not the truth.
She leans forward, resting her head on both her hands. Could one feel such an emotion as love for Hitler?
Who?
A person like yourself.
Not I. But I think so because several women fell in love with him very strong.
Not you?
It's not possible. No, never. And even Hitler could never love a woman like me because I have too much my own head.
It took you many years to write down your account of your life at the time. What prevented you?
For years I didn't know if I'm able to write this because I have suffered too much after the war, as I've heard of what happened because of the Germans.
You were not at all aware of this before?
No, you can believe me, never.
She shakes her head. But when people disappeared? She leans her head on her left hand.
How I know this? My friends, my Jewish friends, they go away much earlier. The last was my doctor in 1938. He went to America. And so I don't know one person who goes missing. I have only heard of one concentration camp.
She places her hand on her chest.
That was Dachau. And they told me in this camp are not Jewish people, but are people who spy on Germany. I couldn't believe what happened. But when later I heard I was sick for 10 years because of this, sick. And this is the reason I can't write, because I have seen another Hitler, I have seen another Germany, I have not seen this. Never did I think that this would be possible.
But when you made the Triumph of the Will, you made it for Hitler.
No. I have got the order to do this, and I make my duty as good as I was able. If Roosevelt gives me an order to make a film about planes, I would do my best, and perhaps it would be a good film. If Churchill gives me an order to make a film about the Natif, is that right, Natif?
The Navy.
Navy. Yes, I think that maybe it would be a good film. the same would be if I get an order from Stalin to make something. If I have a camera, the sound, I see the work. Yes.
She reaches for the mute button.